As recession fears fade, we may be experiencing a Richcession instead. Here's what that means for you. I've never heard that term, Richcession.
I'm not sure exactly who coined the term. So there's a lot of speculation, like, is the recession still on the horizon? What's happening right now? Did we actually already go through it and we just missed it? And some economists are saying we're having this Richcession. In other words, the white-collar worker is being hit disproportionately more than the blue-collar worker or the lower end of the wage scale. Because when you look at the unemployment numbers and the unemployment data and then the JOLTS report, which is people getting out of one job and moving into another, the layoffs have been disproportionately higher in white-collar jobs, while the unemployment rate still remains at a 50-year low. So, example, you see Facebook and Google lay off tens of thousands of people. Those are all white-collar jobs. You're not hearing about a factory laying off 10,000 people. Or construction. And construction's going like gangbusters. And especially, I mean, here in the Seattle Metro, construction's busy. And throughout most of the US, construction's busy. I mean, previously we've talked about this. Builders are killing it right now. That's an opportunity. But what's interesting is that's not the normal narrative. In a recession, what usually happens is the lower income bracket gets hit the worst and the most.
Hence, Richcession.
Richcession. It's hurting the rich people. And it is. It attacked their stock portfolios. It attacked their ability to lend. It attacked small businesses' credit and, the home equity lines of credit. And for the first time, we're seeing real wage growth happening at the bottom end of that spectrum. You haven't seen wage growth really happen like this since the 70s at the bottom end, which is phenomenal. That's good for the middle class. That's good for the economy. That's good for housing. It is inflationary though. So one of the things that the Fed is watching and that they're looking at is wage growth is a little too hot overall. That's inflationary. Because if someone works at McDonald's and you have to start paying them more to work at McDonald's, the price of the cheeseburger goes up, plain and simple. So that is an indicator that they're definitely watching, and they're seeing a lot of upward pressure on that. Part of that also too is because our immigration funnel of recruiting everyone from the nuclear rocket scientist all the way to the construction worker has been cut down. So we haven't been bringing in as much labor as we normally would. Plus, with COVID, we saw a lot of people just abandon the labor force, and some have come back, but our labor force participation rate is still much lower than it was pre-COVID. They're just opting out and saying, I'm done. So in order to get this wage growth under control, and I want to make something very clear, I want people to make more money, okay? However, I want inflation stomped out more, because if inflation is not put under control, the economy has to suffer, and that makes everyone suffer. We need good, sustainable, consistent wage growth and not 5-10% wage growth, because that's just too high. P.S. Everyone, go get a raise right now because you probably can. Okay. Now, if you're a white-collar person, here's the other part that's interesting, that the headline, it's clickbaity, it's catchy. Most of the white-collar workers who lost their job were immediately able to get another job in another place. Some had to take minor pay cuts. Oh well, that's not really hurting the economy. The last thing too that's very interesting that the Fed is watching here is that the GDP numbers are coming in higher and hotter than they expected, which is very interesting too. So you've got this white-collar layoff happening, you've got the lower end blue-collar really rising, and GDP outperforming expectations. GDP would be the measure of our gross domestic product, aka how you measure the US economy. Thoughts? Questions?
Well, I mean, on the GDP part, I'm not an economist, but GDP being gross domestic product, right? Yep. The health of the economy. It's interesting because there are stories about China's really slowing down. The rest of the world too, you have to put it into context, because we always talk about our market, Seattle. Yep. We talk about our country, the United States. But if you, in the context of the world, well, there is a war going on in Europe, and they're dealing with their own things. Yep. Asia might not be coming back as fast, when it comes to central banks. So one of the reasons why we're doing so well, potentially, is just because we're the healthiest of all the sick people. Yeah. And we are the money printer. One of the things I ask people every single day, whether it's a friend or family or just somebody I meet, is how's your grocery bills?
Oh, yeah.
Right? I just ask that because everybody can relate. Nobody has said, oh, what are you talking about? They all react like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
It's so expensive. And it's not just like people living paycheck to paycheck, even rich people, right? So, and then it's just a conversation starter. Everybody is seeing all their expenses going up. So naturally, what happens when you're spending more, not just on food, but everything else, you're spending less in other places.
Yep.
Very simple, supply and demand. And the fact that people just don't have as much to spend on things, well, that's going to start creating more cracks. So when you say all this stuff, I think that if you put it into perspective and has some context, I believe you already said this going into winter, and we are kind of seeing signs of it right now in the stock market and some of these headlines coming out. We're going to start feeling the pain coming up. These high interest rates, interesting enough, there's a lag effect there as well in terms of how it affects business and real estate. So I guess my question for you is, am I on the right track here? Because you should never time the market as a real estate investor, buyer, because it's almost impossible. Nobody can really do it. You can have a general idea of what direction it's going to know, like, should I wait another 6 months, right? Should I pull the trigger right now? That's my last thought too. In terms of the Fed, I feel that they are just doing all this, keeping rates higher for longer and potentially raise one more time to give themselves a little cushion for when things get bad.
They give themselves ammo, so they can come in and be the firefighter all over again.
It's bad guy right now, good guy when the time is right.
Yeah, you can be the hero and put out the fire you started.